master plan and help develop a set of drawings or documents that will allow for fundraising to achieve that master plan. Now, I think I talked a little bit about this before, that master plan isn't the end-all be-all. Master plan is the larger goal. Packed inside that master plan are smaller, more achievable goals. So I'm going to give you the overview right now, and then I'll take you through the smaller spaces after I give you an overview. I'm going to try to keep my presentation short. I've just got a few slides for you so that we have time for questions. I'm aiming at about 20 minutes, right? So there are several larger goals. I think we've talked about this in the past. Giving you, as educators and facilitators, spaces outside to continue to do that. Educate and facilitate is really important. So programming and function is one of our goals. When you want to achieve programming and function, you have to make sure that everyone can get to those spaces that you are teaching in. So accessibility, availability, ease of access, all those things are really important as well. So when we take those two things together, we want to layer on top of that a place or spaces that are aesthetically pleasing, places that you really want to be outside, that inspire you to educate, that inspire your kids to engage. So those are some of the larger goals. So your site here has, as you probably already know, not every school has the resources that you have here in terms of the natural resources. The fact that you are surrounded by the wetlands here is really, for some, they see it as a swamp or they see it as a mosquito haven. For others, they see it as an opportunity for learning, for engagement, and for really getting down and dirty with science and ecology and all of the ologies that you can pretty much think of. One of the real issues that we run across as planners looking at this is access. So just being able to move around campus easily, free of the mud, if you're interested in getting there free of the mud. Some kids want to get in the mud, but if you don't want to, it'd be nice to have a place to move all the way around the campus so you're free of mud. You can move around freely. And then making connections, right? Just being able to get, like, knowing where all the doors are, how do you get outside, where the resources are on campus. One of the things that we remember reading early on from some surveys that you took last year was just trying to create some clarity about, well, where are the spaces outside? What kind of resources does that space provide? How do I sign up for that space and fit it into my classroom? So we're not here to provide necessarily the content, but we are here to provide the infrastructure. The content is on you. We thought about the master plan very similarly. We wanted to design the house and give you the infrastructure. The furniture that goes in the house, that really needs to come from you. So what I'd like to do is just take you on a quick tour of the house, and then we'll zoom in and look at the rooms. So in terms of the house, your front door is here. Sorry. That pointer, the one you put on the...
Oh, yeah.
Aha, right here. There's your front door. I know that most teachers use this door right here to come out down the slope and be able to use the what we call the council rings. The outdoor space is here on the south side of campus. There's a door right here that leads from that mezzanine floor that runs out, and then here's the cafeteria at the back, takes you out to the playground area. Your ball field's over here and your parking is over here, just to orient you. Not everyone reads plans, and we have some drawings behind this that we can show you. But to start, some of the rooms in our house that you have now, we've added an additional council ring out here. You have a really nice existing picnic table porch. We call it the picnic table porch, is outdoor classroom. What would be nice is to add a garden room. It's already, you've already got the bones of that happening here. We'd like to give it a little bit more structure. We do have the courtyard, which is a room all by itself, which we can talk about a little bit further. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4 rooms. We'd like to give you something that's less wild and less complicated than the wetland by bringing a space that's a little closer to the building, inside out. where one can investigate or be in a wetland or a rain garden space. We can do a rain garden room here. We would love to be able to engage the wetland on a more intimate level, a place for sitting and being and teaching that's stationary. There's all kinds of opportunities for a moving classroom. You have the play area here. There's a natural incline, change in elevation from high to low, which makes this a really nice opportunity for a theater type setting, amphitheater type setting. And then of course we want to wrap you all the way around and get you back to the parking lot. So in all, we've got a playroom, the wetland room, the rain room, the theater room, the courtyard, the garden room, the existing picnic space, and then an additional council ring. Can you zoom in down here and we'll start to talk about what the benefits of some of these places are. So when folks come out of this space right here and down the hill, that works for most. It doesn't really qualify as an accessible way to get to use these spaces. And in fact, the two spaces that are out here that have the planter boxes in between them, even though most kids and faculty can use them, not all. So they don't meet compliance either. So instead of changing those up, those have some really beautiful features that are classic and beloved. Why don't we add a third, more accessible ring that can be used if the need for a more level surface is required? What would also be really nice is to activate this whole pathway, maybe a willow tunnel, something that grows and changes with the seasons over this pathway that lots of children and faculty already use. One of the ways to make all of this accessible is to create a pathway. Thanks, Ida. That would, I'll let you slide. Out of this back door here, that's accessible. So that would mean that it's 5% or less in pitch, so it's not very steep. And it can take you from this back door out to this classroom here, and then of course across the bridge over to the library if necessary. So that becomes an accessible path straight to the building. One of the things that we would recommend here is extending the awning of the building and giving you a little bit more covered space right as you walk out of that front door. It might give you places for storing some of that furniture, keeping it dry, and then creating a gravel area with more storage for your garden room, which is already here, and bringing those boxes that were down below next to the path up closer to the building up here where they can be adopted. And again, this is already an amazing program that you have started. All we're trying to do is give the room a little bit more form and shape and create a few pieces of infrastructure that make furnishing that room a little bit easier. Can you go around the corner? So by adding an asphalt path from this point along the back side and out to the wetland, right here, right now, again, this outdoor classroom doesn't meet code either. There's no place to be out there that's level, firm, and slip resistant. You've got gravel and you've got wood chips. Those are all fabulous materials for most, but not all. So by adding an asphalt path along the back side, you not only extend the space available to teaching in this area, but you make it accessible as well. Of course, this becomes a trail in this direction. Wouldn't it be nice if you're coming out of here or if you're moving around here that we would connect one path to a new path with stepping stones across the turf? What's interesting is you do have some grading here. This rises up and you have like a little hill coming out here because you're almost at the level of this mezzanine after you come down the stairs, and then it drops down. This inlet right here, that's that, it looks pretty bad right now. It's right, does everybody know which one we're talking about? It's the place that probably ices over and floods up and it gets really muddy and it doesn't grow. Everything is probably like concrete down there. It's mostly gravel and dirt. What if we regraded all of that? And because it's a low point, why not make it the place where the water wants to go and stays there? Can't we make a little bit of a rain garden down here? Put a deck or a space out here that's dry, that's lifted up, and that's level here and level here. This slopes down and then slopes back up again. One of the things we have to do, once we have this meeting, we'll go and we'll meet with our fire marshal in Acton, Boxborough, and we'll continue to have conversations with conservation about what are the sticking points? What are the things that we need to adhere to from a kind of code issue? This is one of those things where we might need to be able to get a fire truck around the building. Can't imagine a fire truck getting around down here, but we're gonna go out and talk to those folks as soon as we're finished here. So we have a rain garden room. We'll bring the rain garden in closer. What's nice about this, especially if you have littles or if you have time, but you don't have a lot of time to fit being outside into your schedule, you don't have to go and take the full walk through the woods. You can actually bring it in and keep it nice and close to the building here. And keep your feet dry if you would like. Alongside of this playground space, we've put in a long wooden boardwalk that takes you out to a space at the end where you can literally be right at the water's edge, a space that would be great for not only teaching, but for calming down, for recentering, especially given the opportunity to see long distances across the water here. Right now, your playground is wood chips. That's only one of the many reasons it doesn't actually meet ADA code compliance. Wood chips are fine for many, many things, but if you were to try to get a person using a mobility device of any kind from one side to the other, it would be pretty tricky across the surface. So one of the things we did is we added a wooden boardwalk around the edges. It'll make it easier to be able to move around, but it also creates these like little pocket spaces where if you did put a bench in, so these become either playrooms for kids. Again, we're trying to create the infrastructure, not the furniture. If you give a kid a space and say, go for it, right? Somebody's gonna set up an ice cream shop in here, this is gonna be a little, tea and coffee, and over here is gonna be where, the trucks end up playing. So the idea is to create, again, the emphasis on infrastructure, not on what to do with that infrastructure. Here's your play area. These are the spaces that your current play equipment takes up. Right outside your cafeteria, this is an area that's really required. We can't fill that area up for fire code reasons. It would make a really nice stage for the audience, which could sit on this little hill. You could have a new fence along the back. You slide all the way over, and allow access around this whole backside of the building. Right now you have a chinning bar, and you have the Gaga pit, and you have the tetherball. Gaga pit's over here, tetherball, and the swings. They were probably all gifts from classes, the class of 1980, or a parent gift, a parting gift. Not a single one of those pieces of equipment is code. You can't get to them. So if you want to be able to get to them, you need a firm, stable, and slip-resistant surface. So one of the things that we did is that, well, why don't we take this path and run it around out here to the swings. These over here, we can talk about how to come into compliance. I don't want to focus on that point right now, but it would let you, what this would let you do is it would let you have activities off of this path that then are all accessible. You slide down around at the bottom. And then why stop at the swings and turn around and come back? Why not come all the way around? And now you have a nicer circuit. You can even make that a circuit. And we were saying maybe you put a pollinator garden or something that you have access to on two sides right along this whole edge in here. Can you go to the next slide? So we wanted to help visualize some of the things that we're talking about. So if you come out of that building, the door at the back that's on the mezzanine level, you come down the stairs and you go straight out to the rain garden deck out here. There's that spot down low that's always iced over and collecting water and dirt. That's the inlet right down there. And this is that space in between. This is the rain garden with the path running through it up to your playground. This is that slope. This is the terrace, the gravel terrace now behind your cafe. And then the top of that, we've put in a fence. That could be an active fence. That could be a climbing fence. We turned it into an art gallery. Again, I'm trying to emphasize the fact that this is about the infrastructure, and what you do with that infrastructure really is another whole level of detail and input from all of you. We've added some trees on either side of this pathway coming out. Bring natural spaces closer into the building. Okay, next slide. So if you were standing up on that boardwalk and you wanted to head out to So the wetland beyond, it would still, what's nice about this is it gives you access to both sides of the play yard. Over here, you could start to separate out loose parts area or areas where you want a little bit less gross motor, a little bit more fine motor, from areas that you want a little bit more fine motor in your play yard on the left side. But what this does is it gives you a straight shot out so you can appreciate the view not only from out at the deck at the end, but you can also appreciate that from back at the building. Trees on both sides. And then lastly, this is where we started with the Willow Tunnel and a new council ring. One of the things that makes those two council rings that you have outdoor classrooms inaccessible is really the surfacing. If you have wood chips, big rocks, there's hard to find places to sit. Again, even if you are using a walker, a wheelchair, certainly those things are pretty obvious, but it doesn't have to be a mobility device like that. Even if you're on crutches, those ground surfaces are slightly uneven. What we would propose here is that in addition to creating a passive experience, something that you can appreciate without having to stay there but just passing through, you would have a new outdoor classroom that is maybe deck on one side and grass on the other, or deck on one side and gravel on the other, and of course places to sit all around the outside. So,